Good morning, everybody. I'm sure other people are going to join, but I'm going to go ahead and start. And there we go. Okay, this is it. For probably most of you, unless there's some LMFT folks here. This is this is it. Last semester, almost there. You're so close. Um, and congratulations on making it this far. What we're going to do today is I'm gonna go over super briefly, like just a couple of the assignments. they're not they're not super hard. It'll be pretty easy to do. I'm going to talk about just kind of what expectations for this class and what we're going to do. And then I'm going to ask you guys a couple of questions about um, some things that you guys might want to talk about as well. I'm actually going to have um, a couple of former students join us in our next class to talk about like exam prep and next steps in licensure and things like that, because there are folks that are doing it now, and I find that seems to be really helpful for a lot of people because that's typically what questions are asked, especially as we go through the semester. Um, it's interesting because I first started teaching this class in 2017, I think. We were in person, of course, but you couldn't take the national exam until you graduated. But now that's changed. There have been lots of changes that have happened. So you can actually take the exam anytime. And so I've just asked some former students to come back and talk to everyone and let you guys ask questions. And I've told them, hey, we're going to talk about exam prep and next steps and finding supervisors and sites and things like that. So I think that'll be helpful for everyone. And then we're going to talk throughout the course of the semester. We'll also talk about things like private practice and being self-employed and like different subjects there, like insurance uh, and some clinical areas. We'll also spend some time opening up for any kind of case consultations anybody wants to bring. We can do that. I can bring one or two from the folks I'm working with as well. And so we'll do that too. The class itself is pretty relaxed in terms of like academics. There's not a lot of academics at all because you've already kind of done that and you're already busy anyway. So it's not high academics. I'm going to ask you to do one reflection paper. This is all on Moodle too, by the way. You're just going to do one page reflection paper about your practicum experience. Um, and then there's another assignment that doesn't get a grade, but they've asked us to ask you to do it, and it's a QEP assignment. It's basically you'll see it just asks you some questions like short essay just about learning styles. You'll turn that into me, and then I actually forward that along to the QEP folks. So that one's not a grade for us, so you don't have to do it. I'd like for you to do it, but it's not necessary for the class. Um, then the big part of the class in terms of grades, and this is actually really important. Um, I'll need all of your hours, not just Prac 1 or just Prac 2, all of your hours by the end of our semester, as well as both the supervisor evaluation and your self-evaluation. It's the exact same information you turned into Dr. Johnson, you're turning into me, except I want I want everything, all your hours. And we'll talk more about this as we go. Um, I did have a few folks last semester that were already done with their hours when we started, which is becoming a little more common, I think, for some people, not everybody, and that's fine. Any of these assignments that I've just mentioned, you can turn in anytime. Um, I I like for everything to be turned in by the ninth week of this semester, which I believe is August. Oof, August, August like 17th. I'd love for everything to be turned in by then. Just it gives us that way we have a little bit of lead time in case we're missing something. Um, that's what I'd like. that's when I would like for everything to be turned in. And again, I'm going to go over this stuff again as we go through the semester. We're also going to talk about, um, like I said, mentioned earlier, we're going to have some students come, but we're going to talk about some next steps, what it looks like transitioning from student to getting, associate, starting to get your license, which is, a pretty big transition, and what that looks like. Um, so that's just kind of like basically what the class in terms of like assignments that we'll have. Those are the only assignments that we'll have. There's no book, there's no, you know, no research work, nothing. Just just that reflection paper, your hours and your evaluations that you'll turn into me. One thing that I want everyone to remember is that you get 40 hours counted from practicum 1 and 40 hours counted from practicum 2. So you get 80 hours from the two practicum classes. Sometimes people forget to put that on their hours report, so that would be important to include as well. So as part of that 300 hours, 80 of those comes from the class. Okay. Let me say one more thing, and then I'm going to open it up for I've got a couple of questions, but one of the things that's going to be important is class participation. And so one of the things we've been asked to kind of do a little more. One of the things we've been asked to do is meet, at least 5 times during the semester. Of course, back in the day, we met in person every week on a Thursday night, either in Garland or Frisco. And I don't know if anyone's been to the Garland campus in a while, but it's a little bit of an issue to get there right now. So they've been doing construction there for like 4 years. Um, and so we used to meet every week. And when we made the practicum classes all online, which I think is a good move, um, they gave us a little bit of freedom. And so we're going to tighten up some things. So we're going to meet 5 times during this semester, 5 Saturdays from 9 to 11. I realize it's also the summer, and I know people are going to be, potentially traveling and things like that. Like some people are out today, and I get it. Some people are working. I mean, everyone's busy. I get it. Um, what I need is if you're not going to be here, just send me a message. I gave you my email address there in the message I sent yesterday. Send me a message with that information. I just want to keep track. It's just a way for me to kind of keep track of how you're doing, because that's a big part of what we'll meet about anyway. If we get like 5 weeks into the semester and you're going to be like 40 hours short, I need to know that. Like we need to start having that conversation pretty quick. That would be very important. So that's honestly one of the biggest reasons why we meet, because I just want to make sure you guys are, getting everything finished. It's not because I don't trust you. It's just because I want to make sure I'm helping. I want to make sure you get finished with everything. So if you're not going to be here for one of the Zoom meetings, just send me a message, please, and check in. Otherwise, I'll have to bug you, and I don't really want to do that. I'm not a great micromanager because I don't like to be micromanaged, but I will do that if I have to. I just have to keep track of what everyone's doing. Um, so, but I realize it's summer, and I know people are traveling. So just as long as you just send me a message, that's really all I need to know. Okay. Okay. Now, one of the things that I find that every practicum class I teach, every class is a little bit different in questions that they have. There's some classes that they have questions that are only about, like, I feel like some of the classroom time we've only spent talking about the exam. Seems like that the whole time. And then I've got some that only want to talk about like private practice type topics. And I've got some that really only want to talk about like next steps. I mean, every class is different. And I think it just depends on where you are, and how you're doing and how many people in the class. That actually matters too. One thing I'm wondering, and I feel like some of you I have seen in person, of like maybe like one or two people. How many of you have taken in-person classes at Amberton? Okay, I thought there was a few. Um, okay, and we're going to talk more about that too, kind of as we go. I have reasons why I'm asking, but today what I want to do is what I've found is this is a good time to kind of open it up and um, just kind of for you guys to ask some questions too. But the best way to do that to me is just kind of like, you know, for us to have some discussions about a few things. Um, Let me ask this first question, and since we have a smaller class, anybody can talk. We'll talk over each other. It's okay. One of the things I want to know at the beginning, are any of you, or do any of you have any concerns about not getting enough hours by, the end of August? That I really do need to know if anyone has concerns. And if you do, it's okay. It happens every semester. Okay. So everyone feels good. All right. Has anyone already signed up to take the exam? And when are you taking it?
I'm taking it July 27th.
I'm supposed to take it June 25th, but we'll see.
Can you tell me how to sign up?
Just blink your eyes real fast and you're there. Yeah, y'all can talk. Listen, this is a crowdsourcing. If you guys want to answer some, I think it's a great question. How did you guys sign up?
What is the website? NCE website? Is that it? It's like it's a process. So like first you have to submit the information. I think it's through the NCE. Then they send you an approval because I think they have to get information from Amberton to okay you to take the exam. I believe it takes like a few weeks, and then I actually followed up with them. And then you get to register on the Pearson website and determine if you want to take it at home or at a site. I actually picked at a site.
Okay.
Kayla can probably add more to that.
You said it right. I mean,
Yeah.
it is a process though, and I would like get started because if you're waiting till like when you want to take it, you won't get to take it right then. I mean, it's going to
Yeah.
take a little while for all the paperwork to go through and everything.
And then when you're doing it, like if you're doing it at home, I think you can kind of just like pick your days. But if you're doing it on a site, which I'm easily distracted, so that's why I picked the site. There's only certain days and times. So you may want, depending on when you want to take it, some days it may be open, and then you want to see if you can find a location that's close to you as well. So you don't have to drive very far.
Right. I'm taking it at home, so it was a little more open.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna like do everything but frisk you when you take it at home. It's pretty.
I took the CPCE at home, and it is interesting.
Yeah, they're
I
pretty
get easily
hardcore.
distracted. Like I would hear like people probably mowing the lawn or my dog barking, and my attention span would be gone. So I said, but maybe if I'm at a location, I'm just there.
So
I
I'm
think it
sure.
does. Well, oh,
No,
I'm
go ahead,
sorry.
Audra. Audra, go
Oh,
ahead.
no, I was just going to say, I know Sheila's helped me with it because I think once you do try and request to take it, it takes a few days before they send you the email with the registration confirmation. And then you have to go through that whole process like we did for our prep exam where you have to check your laptop or whatever you're going to be using if you're not going into a center. And I think that's what got me. I'm kind of stuck on that. So once I get through that, then I can actually pick my date. So that helps anybody.
it took them a couple weeks actually to even give me the approval. Um,
Yeah, it
And you're
takes them.
doing that
Yeah,
in
they're
person?
not fast. They're
yeah,
not
no,
fast.
just like even before they even just to like sign up at Pearson,
Wow.
take the exam, it took a few weeks for them to actually send me the approval to go
That's
ahead.
good to
Audra's,
know.
yours was super fast because I did it before you, Audra,
Mhm.
and we got our email like a day or two apart.
Okay.
So
Well, don't listen to my experience then.
Well,
Be safe.
I think I'm glad you guys are talking about it. I'm going to share this website with y'all. This is the website that you're going to need from now, like moving forward, because you're going from Amberton to the state of Texas, and that's a big jump. Okay, so everything moving forward, you're going to find on this website. So this website is a clearinghouse for MFT, LPC, psychology, and social work. And so, like if you go to the LPC part, it's pretty sparse, but this right-hand column will have lots of great information about next steps in getting your license and associate license and renewals and all of those things. Um, and you can do everything online, which is really nice too, and that actually has streamlined the process quite a bit. And so I would familiarize yourself with this. I thought I put this on Moodle. I haven't put this site on Moodle, but I'll put it on there so you guys can see it. Um, you can actually sign up for, it's called BHEC is what we call it. Texas Behavioral Health Executive Council. You can actually sign up for their emails. This council sends emails monthly, most of the time monthly, just about like if there's going to be rules changes, like there's a couple of rules changes coming up for MFTs. They're not big ones, they're just kind of small ones. But if there's rules changes, or if you ever wanted to go to a meeting, a BHEC meeting, you can, that type thing. So I think it's good to sign up for it. Um, any information that you'll need for your license will be here. And so it's really helpful to have. The old way they used to do it long ago was horrible. Are there any MFTs here? I never know because it doesn't give me like a list. There's a couple. Okay. The same, you can, here's the MFT site. Same thing in the right-hand column, all the information that you'll need is all right there. For the MFTs, I can also tell you that the Texas Division of Marriage and Family Therapy has their own site, tamft.org, and it's really helpful too about the exam. There's really good study guide information there too for you. I know you still have another practicum to go, but you can take your exam too at any point. The exams are different for sure. Um, just different in terms of some of the questions, but they're both pretty application based. That's one of the things that most students are surprised by. It's not like regurgitating information; it's a lot of applying information, and so uh, that's just something to kind of keep in mind too. But this website will help you just with any questions you have about, licensure. You can even look up people's license through here. I mean, there's lots of things you can do here, which I think can be really helpful. Um, the other thing that I think is helpful about it is if you do sign up for their emails and they send an email, excuse me, with proposed changes, there are always changes being proposed to some of the rules and guidelines. That happens quite often. You can kind of find them all right here at statutes and rules. You'll be able to see, what the changes are and what they're talking about. Um, the jurisprudence exam, let me mention, I always forget about this one when students ask me, just while we're here, the jurisprudence exam, everybody takes this exam. Um, I don't know why they call it an examination. You can't, first of all, you can't fail it. If you get a question wrong, they just ask you again and then you answer. If you get it wrong, they ask you again until you get the right answer. That's literally what the whole thing is. And once you're finished with it, it gives you a little certificate that you'll need. You'll need that for when you apply for your associate license as well. So this is just a good website to know, just a good place to go to find information, just in general about next steps. Anyone else taking the exam coming up? Audrey, you're taking it?
I am. I'm trying to take it the same date as Sheila.
Okay.
Makes me feel a little better. But I
Okay.
may delay it till the first Saturday in August. I'm either doing the last Saturday in July or the first Saturday in August.
Gotcha.
See, I'm
Okay.
going through all the tech stuff to make,
Yeah.
that I have my ID set up right and all that, and that my computer's not going to crash and take all that kind of stuff before I can
Yep.
actually select my date.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Good. Yeah. Good. You have to tell us how you do. You're going to pass. I know you're going to pass. Our pass rate's pretty high, actually. Amberton's pass rate.
What is our pass rate?
I think it's in the 80%. That's pretty high. We have by far the most students take the exam of any university in Texas. Yeah, we have like 80 students a year, I think. I mean, something like that. That's quite a few. Yeah. Yeah, we
And I
have
think it's like if you don't pass, you can take it within 30 days as long as it's within that 90-day,
yep,
the 90 days of your registration.
right.
So,
Yep. As long as you pay for it again, they'll let you take it again.
so what happens if it's like beyond the 90 days? Like say you wait till like it's close to the 90 days and then oops, now you have to retake it. So you have to do the whole process over again with registering?
I'm assuming that's a good
Okay.
question, but I'm assuming that's what would happen.
I mean, I'm not going to go into it thinking I'm going to fail, but just
No,
always A, B plan.
no, no, no. I think
Within the
it's
90
fine.
days.
Yeah,
I think you do have to start over in the
probably.
registration process.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, pass on the first time.
Well, every student from my last two classes has passed.
Awesome.
Um, and there's been people that have had to retake it again. That does happen. It's not a indictment on your intelligence. It's a difficult test just because it's a lot of information and it's very application based. And so, um, you're going to pass it for sure. Once you get past it, it feels pretty good. I can tell you that. I do want to mention something else that's kind of related to the national exams, both the MFT and the LPC. Now, if you're an MFT, you can kind of disregard this right now. You have another semester of practicum left, unless you are graduating with the LPC. Like so I know some people are doing both, and so in order for you to get your transcript for the associate license, you need to apply for graduation, even though we don't have a ceremony in the summer. So right now, I just got this memo yesterday from the dean's office. So I'm going to read it word for word, and I'm going to actually send it to everybody. If you anticipate completing your degree requirements at the end of this summer, you should submit your application for graduation to Student Services no later than Saturday, June 22nd. So that is, what's today? Is that next week? You have a week. The reason why is because that starts the process that tells the system, hey, these folks are about to graduate, and they have to make sure that you've completed. Well, number one, you've completed all your coursework. Number two, it gets your transcripts ready. So, because you'll need your transcript when you apply for your associate license. So you have until June 22nd. You can do all of this online. The application is available online. And like I said, even though we don't have an actual ceremony in the summer, you still have to apply for your application. And that throws people off a little bit when we have like in the summer or the winter when we don't have actual graduation services. Now, if you wanted to, you can walk in the winter or in the fall, technically, if you want, even though you graduate in the summer. Some people do that, even though you'll already have your diploma or degree. You can do that. So you'll apply for your graduation or do your application for graduation, and that starts a process to get your transcripts, which you'll need for your associate license. So that one's kind of a big deal.
Will they let us know when they receive the information? I mailed mine yesterday.
Yeah, I'd call them.
Okay.
I would. I'd always check up for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. And that I don't think it'll be a problem, Sheila. I I'll give y'all my this is my 2 cents about things moving forward. I did this, and I'm not you guys, some of y'all have had me as a professor. I'm not like type A anal at all, but I'm very type A anal about all my records. Because when we're dealing with the state, you got to be able to, you know, have, copies of things. So like when you mail something in, what I would do is call them. Oh yeah, we got it. Hey, can you send me an email confirmation that you received it? That's what I would do. Because that's just important, especially with the state. Um, at the state level, if they say you can do something, I need that in writing. That's very important. About 3 years ago or two, it was during the holidays. I was going to be traveling, and I'm licensed in 3 states, and so I can see clients. I can be anywhere, but my clients have to be in those states that I'm licensed. However, some states now, like North Carolina, which I didn't know at the time, North Carolina, you have to get permission to see clients in other states, even though I'm just visiting there. So some states are getting a little picky about stuff. So I had checked with New Mexico, and they said, "Yeah, you're fine. You can see clients um, in in the state you're licensed while you're here during these dates." But I got them to send me that in writing, and actually send an email with that in writing. So anytime you're dealing with any kind of licensing issue, you always want to get things in writing. I think it's smart to have what have a good way to capture all your hours that you're going to accumulate. I did it on a spreadsheet just because that was easier for me. There's apps now that you can get. I mean, there's lots of ways to do it. Um, I think spreadsheets are easy just because you can have columns and it's easy to kind of keep everything in front of you. And I had I had columns and I have different ways that I highlighted things and things like that. But that's just a way to kind of keep track for yourself. And so whatever system that you use to kind of keep yourself organized, it gets it'll be important because it's one thing when you've gathered 20 hours so far towards your license versus I'm at like 2,800 hours. I mean, everything starts to get a little muddled after a while. And so it's good to have kind of a good system in place. Um, and whatever works for you, that's what I would say. Um, like I know at Amerton, we give you guys some sheets to use um, for the practicum, which those are fine because you're doing, you're, especially direct hours, you're only doing 100. But if if you were doing 1,500, those sheets wouldn't cut it. You'd need like, 100 of those sheets. That doesn't make sense. You would want to capture it digitally somehow. And I would back it up on my computer. I'd put it on a backup drive. Like I would back up everything, put it on the cloud, whatever. But obviously it needs to be encrypted. But you never keep like client information on things that you're gathering. You're just keeping those hours for yourself. To my knowledge, they never have asked specifically to see like someone's spreadsheet of their hours because that's kind of what your supervisor's for. Your supervisor will sign off on hours that you've accumulated as well. So when you get your associate license and you have your supervisor, the 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 way it works for LMFT and LPCs is the same. You're actually practicing under your supervisor's license, not your own. That's why your supervisor is so important for the experience. And so, um, as soon as you get your hours completed, your supervisor will be, kind of the one to kind of sign off on things. So, and you'll see all of this is online when you go to apply online, you'll see all this information there. It makes a lot more sense than it used to back in the old days.
Should we start looking for a supervisor now?
I would. Yeah, I
Okay.
would. Yeah, I would. Now that's a great question. So let me ask this. Are any of you going to stay where you're at now? When you get your associates? Some people. Okay. Which is fine. That's fine. I'm just curious. Sometimes when you find a site, then supervision could be included potentially in that, which can be super, super helpful. Not always. And it's okay to have a separate supervisor, um, separate from your site as well. But definitely looking for supervision can be very helpful to start kind of narrowing down that inside that process. Especially if hey, I'm pretty close on my hours. I know I'm going to be fine. I'm going to I'm going to send my application in pretty soon after I graduate. You need to have a supervisor picked out by then for sure. And so that's actually something we're going to talk more about our next class. We're going to talk more about things like that. Uh, and so, um,
Can I ask about the way we're calculating our hours now? Dr. Johnson I have a Google Doc that I'm doing it
yep,
on.
mhm,
Is that fine?
yep,
Okay, 'cause I have 3 sites, and so it was kind of confusing on the
mhm,
sheets. So,
yep.
okay,
Yeah, I would rather you do it electronically personally. I think it's better. It's easier than writing it down. I think it is personally. Because that way you have it with you all the time, like a Google sheet, you have it with you everywhere.
right. And my supervisor's on it, so she just
Yeah.
looks at it periodically, and if I have a
Yep.
question, she'll look on it.
Like
She'll
technically
fix it.
you could even share it with me and I could see it technically. You
Okay,
know what I'm saying? Like you can
right,
share it. Um, I don't have enough time to do this, but if had enough time, I would just create this for us. Like I would create a system where we all had that. I just don't have time to do it. And, you know, it's not that hard to do, but it would be something where like a clearinghouse where every student could go, something like a Google where it's super easy and you can see it and share it. And you can give permissions to certain people, like not everybody can see it. That makes it
right.
really easy too. So yeah, I think doing it that way is great. That's smart. I think it's probably smart to start doing it now the way you think you're going to do it,
Mhm.
moving forward. Yeah, that's fine.
Well, I'm a school counselor, so we
Yeah,
have to clock our hours for 80/20.
yeah,
So, I mean, it just
yeah.
is another way for me to clock it. So,
Right. Sure, sure. Yeah, I would just yeah, I think that's fine. That's why I use a spreadsheet. Um, I knew Google's been around a little while, but I didn't, there wasn't Google, like there weren't Google Sheets when I did mine, back when I
I
did
wish
mine.
I'd done that because I started on Google Doc, and it's exciting math for me to
Yeah,
exercise my brain.
right. Yeah, the sheets are a lot easier. That's for sure. Yeah. It starts getting tricky, I'm telling you, when you start getting into the 2000s and you're like, "Oh man, I have 2,325 hours and now I've got 2,337." I mean, it just starts getting kind of it's just kind of starts to push on your brain a little bit for sure. Um, oh, there's something I was going to say about that. One of the things we're going to talk about too is, and this came up actually recently with a former student. One of the things we're going to talk about as well are like if you go to a site and um, they're going to pay you, and what's a good percentage of pay? Usually there's a percentage that folks get and that the practice gets. We're going to talk about things like that. I've got it's a class period I did 2 springs ago with a friend of mine, Chris Kendall, who's a CPA, where he breaks down like being what it means to be self-employed for tax purposes, for salary purposes, all those things. Like if you're a 1099 versus a W-2, if you want to be incorporated or not versus sole proprietor. It's about a 2 hour discussion that we had in a class. It's a recording. It's on Moodle right now. I would encourage you to watch that. It's super helpful. There's probably been some tweaks to rules now between then and now. There are tweaks to self-employment rules every once in a while. Like I just saw a month or two ago, they're talking about changing the self-employment tax again. So that changes every once in a while. So there could be some tweaks. It's always important to kind of talk to a CPA about things that you're not sure about. But he does a good job of just kind of explaining it basically and kind of what it means. And then there were some really good questions on there. That's why I put that video up. I thought it was really good. I can't get him to come back because he's so busy, but I got him that one night. It was on a Thursday night, so we actually had a class with him, and he does a really good job. I've known Chris for a long time. He was really helpful for me in my practice too.
I was watching it. It was really good. I was
Yeah.
watching it this morning.
Good.
You said you were putting documents in the chat. Do you have those?
That's a great question. Probably. I probably do.
Drop them on Moodle if you.
Do you remember what they were?
Um,
Like if you see it, just send me like a description, like whatever it was. I probably do have it
okay.
somewhere. Because I think they came from him, I bet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I probably have a couple of those.
I'm trying to remember. I just wrote it down. Ask about documents. I
Yeah.
didn't know which ones?
Yeah, I probably do. And I can find stuff pretty quick if but that was I think that was the spring of 22. Anyway, I've got all my classes recorded. If y'all just, if you're bored one night, want to go on YouTube and watch some lifespan development from summer of 2021, you can go watch it.
Might be a good
Oh.
review for the NCE.
I don't know. Maybe. Maybe. Okay. I asked about the hours. Asked about, okay. In terms of hours, like I said before, and for those of you that are watching the recording of this is really important. Like I said, if you're worried about your hours, like especially like right now, just please let me know. Let's have a conversation about that so we can start that process early. I don't want us to get 7 weeks in and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to make it. I need to know pretty quickly if you're worried about your hours, so I can help you. There's some things we can do, some creative things we can do to help with hours, so we can help you kind of reach those goals. Please don't ever hesitate to ask questions. I even have former students reach out every once in a while with questions. You can always do that too. I've talked to former students multiple times about different things as you kind of get out and start seeing clients. And so I think that's something you can always do as well. I just want you guys to be successful. And so this class is mainly designed to help you kind of finish up and move to the next step. That's why we're here. And so that's why it's low on the academic side, but heavy on the, next step side. Okay. I'm looking at my notes here real quick.
I have a question about pay, because my supervisor, since I have 3 sites, one of them, so like right now we're considered master level, right? Because we don't have our LPC at all. So whenever we pass our tests and do everything and we're LPC associate, there's like people being charged. Because like right now, I'm not sure if one of my clients, how she's being charged, but I don't know how to approach that. Because she shouldn't be being charged like she's with an LPC, correct?
Okay, I'm glad you brought this up. This is a good question. Let's have a quick ethical discussion. Right now, you're not master level anything. Right now, you're student practicums, you're practicum students, right? Um, when you graduate and get your associates, then you're an LPC associate, and you can advertise yourself that way. That's how you would advertise yourself, right? And then obviously when you get your full license, you're an LPC. You can advertise yourself that way. I can't speak for what sites do, like how they do things. Sites will charge um, X amount of money, even if you're a practicum student, they might charge, X amount. I can't speak for whatever that is. You just can't advertise yourself a certain way. That's all. And we had this issue a couple of years ago. The site can't advertise you a certain way either. Now, 99.999% of the sites don't do what I'm about to say, so it's usually not a problem. Every once in a while, a site will advertise that all of their providers are LPCAs and above, or something like that. They might say that does happen, and that's not really true, and that actually would hurt you, not the site. Unless they were supervising you, then it would hurt them. Does that make sense? You cannot be advertised as anything other than what you are. Like
Right.
I can't, like right now, this happens to me all the time. I have a PhD, right? So I'm on a couple of insurance panels, and United Health for some reason is advertising me as a psychiatrist to their clients. Well, I don't have a medical degree, right? I'm not a psychiatrist. And so I immediately, in all my information, have to put out. And when this happened to me this week, someone called and they started talking about medication. I said, "Ma'am, are you asking me about medication? Because I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a medical doctor. I had to go through the whole thing. I've talked to United like 3 times about this. You can't advertise yourself other than what you actually are. Like right now, you're a practicum student. Then you'll be LPCA or LMFTA or associate. Then you'll be, fully licensed. So just as long as you're advertising yourself correctly and making sure that site is advertising yourself correctly, that's what matters. Because ethically, we can't represent ourselves as anything other than what we are. Which doesn't sound like a big deal, but clients don't know. If they come in there and they see you, they don't know if you're a fully licensed therapist or a student or what, they have no idea. Right? Does that make sense?
Mhm.
I've
So
seen
That's
on
every,
what,
I've seen on some websites where people will put that they're a master's level counselor. Is that for people who have graduated but haven't passed like the NCE?
I don't even know what that means. I'm not sure
Yeah,
what
I've seen
I
it
know
on
what
some.
yeah, I know what you're saying, but if you like think about it
I was
logically,
just curious what
yeah,
it was too when
yeah,
I
I
was,
don't know what that means. I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
yeah.
I would highly recommend not doing that personally
right.
Yeah,
because
I
you're
know.
not. First
They
of all,
put
you
me
don't
down as
have
a
your
student.
yeah, first of all, you don't have your master's yet,
Well, I do have one in school counseling.
but you're not an
So,
LPC.
right. And like
Yeah,
I've explained that I
yeah,
have a
yeah,
master's in school counseling. I'm a certified school counselor,
right,
but I'm in school for being a professional counselor. That's
right,
what I say to my client.
right. And those are two separate things,
Right.
right? Those are two separate things. It's like saying I'm a social worker versus I'm a professional counselor. Those are two separate. They're not the same things because you do different things. Um, I'm not saying it's bad that you have both. That's good. That's actually going to help you, I think, in the long run. But like no one here is a master's anything. In the clinical field, master's level means like Sue Johnson's a master level technician or clinician, right? Like someone that founded a field and someone that spent X amount of time and is expert in that field is actually what they would call master level, whatever, therapist or clinician. So I think this is I'm glad y'all are bringing this up. I know people are advertising themselves certain ways. I'm just going to throw this. I have this conversation every semester. Don't don't do things that's going to lose your license before you get your license. Like if you have to err on the side of being super conservative about what you say about yourself, do that. Does that make sense? Hopefully. I don't want to scare you, but I kind of want to scare you. Like, I don't want you to be like, oh my gosh, but just be mindful. That's all. Does that
I
make
have
sense? Hopefully.
some feedback. I have a master's in a LCDC,
Yep.
licensed addictions counseling, and I know once you have 5 years experience in, like, I have a master's degree in addiction counseling, that you can take another state exam, become an MAC, which is a master's addiction counselor.
Yep.
Might be something they're talking about.
Yeah. I don't, if it is, that's what they need to say. Like, you have to say what it is. Like, if I say I'm a if I say I'm a master counselor or master's level counselor, whatever, that's vague. I don't know what does that mean? I don't know. Awesome. The reason we have these ethical guidelines is not just for us, it's for our clients. Clients don't know. Does that make sense? Like, my family, I've been doing this, guys, for 15 years. My family still doesn't understand what I do. I've got an LMFT degree, I have a PhD, and they think I'm like a forensic psychologist sometimes. Like, they just don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's my family. People don't know, just because you put a bunch of stuff out there, people don't know what that means.
Mhm.
So we have to make sure they understand. Is now, obviously, if you advertise yourself correctly and you do everything right and they still don't get it, that's on them. I'm not saying, you know, like, some of that stuff's on our clients, and we do have some clients that are kind of like, did you really mean that? What's going on? That happens too. But in terms of like how we advertise ourselves, it's just very important for us to make sure we're doing it the right way, and make sure our sites are doing it the right way too. Again, I don't want to belabor this forever. I don't want to scare you guys. I just want you to be aware. We have had trouble with this before. We've had some students in the past that have not done a great job of doing that. And this is the last thing I'm going to say about it. And I think this is kind of important too. There's a Facebook group I know out there for students, and I know alumni are on it too. And there's a lot of messaging that goes on in that Facebook group that's sometimes great. Like, 95% of it's awesome, and then 5% of it's crap. Just make sure you don't follow every single thing you see on that, whatever that group is. It used to be a very, very active group. I don't know if it still is now. Um, Obviously, there's no instructors on the group. I could care less about being on the group. I don't care about that. But there's a lot of great information there, honestly, for people. Just be careful about what you read or what you hear. And my suggestion is always do the most conservative thing and make sure, because you have to think about it in terms of, like, what is my client going to see and what can they understand? Like, Sheila, what you're saying, hey, I have a master's degree in school counseling, school psychology, or school counseling. So but I'm also a student in professional counseling. That's perfect. That's exactly what you are. And if they don't get that, then now they might ask questions. What does that mean? Sometimes people think, oh, I have a master's in, XYZ thing, like LCDC. Like, hardly anyone knows what LCDC means unless you're in that field, right? Um, but you just have to be, pretty explicit with folks about it. I have the conversation about medication. I don't do medication at least once or twice a week, at least, on a specific, like, explicitly. So, some people think, some people, this is going to happen to you. You're going to be counseling someone and they're going to say, hey, can I take this XYZ medication? And you're going to be like, I don't know. That's a great question, but that's not my, that's out of my scope. That's going to happen if it hadn't happened already. Because people think if we're in the field, we automatically know what a medical doctor takes 4 years to know. That's the only people that can do medication are people with a medical degree. So a general practitioner, OBGYN, internal medicine, and a psychiatrist. Those are the only people that can do medication in the state of Texas. Just so you know. Okay. Does that all make sense? Hopefully. Good. Mark, I think you're about to talk and I cut you off.
Oh, oh, no, sir. I'm sorry. I forgot to mute my mic.
No, you're okay. You're okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I was going to talk about that anyway, so I'm glad you guys are bringing it up. Please don't hesitate to bring up questions and ask questions. And if I say something wrong and you think it's something else, don't hesitate to say, hey, let's check it out. I don't mind checking stuff out. There's been some rule changes that have happened even during our semesters. There was a couple of rule changes that happened about 3 years ago about private practice and that I was not even aware of at the time. And some students were like, hey, here's what it says. I didn't even know. So there's stuff that happens. You just kind of have to pay attention to it. So please don't ever hesitate with questions. And please don't hear my passion be me. I hope it doesn't overwhelm. I don't want it to overwhelm you. I just don't want things to happen. I don't want bad things to happen to you guys. I really want you to be able to practice. You know, we need mental health providers right now. We just need them. It's very important. Okay.
Did you say you're going to talk about actually the whole private practice, like going in and starting your own private practice?
Yep.
Okay.
We're going to have a whole class period. We're going to talk about it.
Okay.
Yep. 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 But that video that I mentioned earlier was part, like, we'll talk about that stuff too, but that video just does a good job of explaining it. Some of the financial pieces of it. I think it's really helpful. About that. Okay, here's what I want to do now. What do we have? 1, 2. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put you guys in a quick breakout group, and I want you to talk about a couple of things. I like to know, like I said, I think I said this at the very beginning. Every class I teach is a little different in what they want to know and what they want to talk about, which I think is fine. Some things are the same, but there's always some nuance. I want you guys, I'm going to put you in breakout groups and I want you to just talk about, like, hey, here's some questions that I'd love for us to talk about, or here's some expectations that I have about this class, including I have no expectation other than I just want to graduate. That's fine. That doesn't bother me either. But I'd love to know what questions that you might have. And what I have found is that when I put you in the groups and you guys can kind of talk about it, it usually helps to bring a lot of those out. Plus, if you just want to talk to each other and hang out, just do that too. Okay. I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that, and then we'll jump back in and kind of go over those. All right. So let me do that. Everyone should see those now. All right. Okay. Great. All right. So talk to me a little bit about any questions you guys might have, expectations for class. What types of things did you guys talk about? And anybody can talk. We can be civil.
So I have a question relating to ethics.
Yep.
At the clinic where I am, there is a student who is not yet certified who is providing counseling services for clients outside of the clinic, like not related to the clinic, and charging them. And they Venmo her money. Is that ethical as long as she's upfront about her lack of credentials? Or is it someplace that you would not tread because it's too ethically like iffy?
Great question, Michelle. Starting us off with a banger. What do you guys think? I see some shaking heads, so go ahead and start talking. That's a great question.
I would not do it. And I've had people in my past, especially like parents or parents at my school, people at my church wanted me to do it. And I'm like, I'm not a professional counselor and I can give you some people to refer you to, but at this time, I don't think ethically for me, I would want to do that.
Okay.
I think if I recall correctly, and I mentioned this to Michelle in our discussion, but in Dr. Johnson's last Prac 1, I think he had a former student that has her own like telehealth business, and she was actually looking to hire and pay a student as advertised as a student, as a master's student. So that's where I got a little confused.
Well, I think that, I mean, because that was with her, because I remember that and it was very interesting and appealing. But I already had 3 different things going on. But I think if the business is doing that and they're advertising you as someone that's not licensed, that's different. But it sounds like Michelle's saying that someone's working somewhere and then seeing people on the side. I don't know. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, because what Sheila's saying, they were still going to be a student doing their practicum, but they were just going to get paid as a practicum student. So like that's when he was saying, some people will pay us as practicum students. I mean, I'm not, but it would be nice. But they do have some, but yeah, like I think what they're doing, if they're saying they're actually a counselor, is wrong.
Yes,
So-
and from what I know, she's being completely upfront about her lack of credentials. She's telling them, hey, I'm a student still. This is what I'm doing. These are the kinds of sessions that we're going to have. These are my like actual qualifications. I'm not certified yet. I don't have a license yet, that kind of thing. And they Venmo her the money.
Is she calling it counseling, or is she calling it coaching or advising or anything other than counseling?
I don't know her specific term for what she says she's doing.
Okay.
Is she still being supervised?
Yes, there are supervisory meetings that happen every week through the clinic that I'm at.
I guess my question is, why aren't they coming through the clinic?
Because the clinic that we're at is a teenage PHP IOP for kids on probation, kids with drug addiction problems, that kind of thing.
So the clinic okays it? It's the clinic's okay
No,
with it.
it is not under the clinic's umbrella at all.
But that's how she's getting clients, is through the clinic.
No. No, she
Well-
doesn't use the clinic to get clients at all. She has separate ways that she advertises herself. And no, she does not do that counseling under the umbrella of the clinic.
I know, but did you say though that they were people that were at the clinic?
Nope.
Okay.
No, she doesn't cross those wires at all.
Okay, that's good.
Including supervision?
Not including supervision. Well, see, the meetings that I've been to where she has, because we do a weekly Zoom call. The Zoom calls that I've been to, she does not talk about her outside clients in the supervision meetings, just the things going on at the clinic. Because the clinic is paying for the supervisor.
Maybe she has another supervisor somewhere else.
Maybe she does. I don't know for sure. I don't know that much about it. And one of the reasons I was asking is because I was wondering if I could take, because I have an art degree and I'm certified to teach art. And I was wondering if I could take that, and if I were to go to another clinic and do something with the art degree and the mental health at different places like the clinic I'm already at.
That seems like a totally different question though than what
It is a
you're asking.
different question. You're right. But that's one of the reasons I brought it up.
So, okay.
So
I don't know enough information about this person. It sounds
Okay.
sketchy to me.
Okay.
Like I wouldn't do it, and I would never advise
Okay.
it. And I'm on the precipice
Okay.
of like reporting this at this point
Okay.
because we have a duty to protect our field, right?
Yes.
Now, having said that, I don't know. Maybe she has a supervisor who's supervising her while she's doing that, but potentially. Here's the issue, and this is what's really important about this. When you're an associate, you have to have supervision. You're practicing under the supervisor, right? If you ever go away and do something on your own without supervision, then technically you're unethical.
Like practicing without a license, kind of, because you're under the
That's
aegis of the.
That's
Okay.
exactly what it is. Now,
Okay.
Mark asked a good question because some people do try to skirt this by
Mhm.
saying I'm coaching, like I'm doing coaching,
Okay.
because you don't have to have a lot. Anyone in this Zoom call tomorrow can go, I'm a coach and I'm gonna coach you. There's no, it's a wild west. You can do whatever you want, you know. The problem is, this goes back to what I was talking about earlier, like not doing things that loses your license before you get your license. This would be one of those things to me. We had a student do this that got in trouble with the board and was unable to get her license. This happened about 3 or 4 years ago, quite a while actually. Now, what Audra's bringing up that Dr. Johnson was talking about, telehealth stuff, that's totally different. Like I do all virtual. I could start a telehealth practice right now, probably, and hire any of you guys as associates under that company and offer supervision, and they would be fine, right? Because you know what I'm saying? Because it's a,
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing you say is this person works where you work, but on the side, she's got this little side hustle where
Mhm.
she's seeing clients and charging them,
Yes.
regardless if she says I'm a student or not or whatever. The problem is that we don't know. The issue really is that if she has no supervision, she is totally practicing without a license. Because the only way you can practice as an associate is with a supervisor that gives you your license. Your
Okay.
associates is not a license. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yes. Yes, it does. And if
Yeah.
if she doesn't even have the LPCA, then that's a really big deal, right?
That's a huge deal,
Okay.
I would say, if she's a student. Please,
Okay.
I don't even want to ask if it's a student at Amberton. I really don't. Hope it's not.
It's not.
Okay. I don't know where she goes to school, but I bet they don't know about it either.
Probably not.
Well, that question kind of leads to what our group was talking about. And that's why many of us were smiling at each other because we were talking about, so right now, one of my sites is a virtual private practice, and I have a client, and I'm just anticipating and trying to figure out, which I'm hoping it won't be a problem. And I just really want to be ethical. It's just an issue I have. So I guess it's a good issue. But the in between time, like I graduate in August, but I don't have everything done for an LPC associate. What am I? Do I quit seeing that client? I don't want to abandon her. Like, what do I do?
You have two choices. You can stop seeing your clients altogether until you get your associates and have supervision. Or you can take the extended practicum at Amberton, and that covers you until you get your license, which is what the majority of people do. The extended practicum that we offer started because we used to have to wait to take the exam until after you graduated. So people wanted to keep seeing clients while they took the exam and then got their license. Well, now you can take your exam anytime, which means you're just that one step closer, but you still can't see clients without being under supervision. This is the key. Supervision is the key for your next step,
Okay.
right? Extended practicum gives you the Amberton umbrella, just like now, because it's a practicum. Does that make sense? Even though you graduated, you can still see clients in the extended practicum. And we have many, many people that start the extended practicum, then get their license, and then you can, some people even drop the class or or whatever, because then you're under your supervisor and you're fine. You can go and now we do have some people that are like, I need a break. I'm taking a break and stop seeing clients altogether and wait till they get their license and then start back up. But those are really your only options.
So in a perfect world,
Perfect world.
on July 27th, I pass my test,
Yep.
graduate in August.
Mhm.
Would I have all that other stuff? I mean, would it all be in order for me to keep seeing clients?
I don't think you'd have your license. It takes
And then,
2 to 6 weeks to get your associate license.
okay. Okay,
So
that's what I
that's the
need.
gap. That's the gap of time. And I'm just being super honest. That gap of time is what a lot of people try to cheat on. If I'm being honest.
Well, I can see where it could happen. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm trying to make sure I'm doing the right thing
Yeah.
during that, because I anticipate there's going to be a gap of time.
If you don't have supervision, there's two things that are bad. You can't see clients as any type of under any license. You're not even licensed to see people. That's unethical. And you can't count those hours towards your licensure. Until you're an associate, you can't start counting hours. This is not my rule. This is the state's rule. It's every state's rule. Does that make sense? It's just really important. And I'm glad y'all, these are great questions. I'm glad you guys are asking and talking about it. I'd rather you ask than not ask and hope for the best. Don't do that. That's not a great strategy. Hope for the best is not a good strategy in the licensing process.
Well, I
And
feel like I need to prep my client, start now, kind of
Yeah.
prepping her. I
Yeah.
mean, she knows that I'm in my practicum, but I kind of need to like have the words to say, preparing her for whatever's going to happen in
Yeah.
August.
And this, let me just throw this out too. Please hear me as I just hear me as caring as possible. Your clients will be okay no matter what happens. If we are not more important than our clients. And if our clients are relying on us that much and becoming codependent on us, that's a problem anyway. Our clients will be okay. They'll be fine. That they'll be fine. I think it's smart to prep. If any of you knew right now, like, I think I'm going to take a break after I graduate, like, if you know that, probably 5, 6 weeks before you need to start, or whatever. A lot of places have policies in place for that termination, so you'll kind of follow whatever those policies are. You do need to start prepping them and telling them. You don't start too early because that makes it a little bit difficult. But if you already know, hey, I'm going to probably that's true if you know you're leaving, or like some of you are going to go to a different site to start getting your hours. You'll want to start end-in therapy, either terminating or transferring, because you can transfer client. There's multiple ways to do that, and you can kind of rely on your site and your supervisor to kind of help you do that. That's just part of mental health care. That's just how it works. So I think it's smart to think ahead, but that gap of time is the key. Here's the key. Supervision is the key. If you're an extended practicum, you have that umbrella already, the supervision umbrella. If you have your associate license, you automatically have it because you have a supervisor. You can't have your associate license without a supervisor. They go together. Does that make sense? Hopefully. I don't know where this gets confused sometimes with students. The supervision question with the associate license gets people confused for some reason. And I know for a fact we talk about it a lot during the program, but it usually doesn't compute in our heads until we get to that point, right? We usually kind of like, oh yeah, I know. And then we get to the point where we're like, hey, wait a minute, what am I supposed to do? When you get your associate, that means you have supervision. That's really key because the associate license means you start gathering hours. I don't know about you. I don't want to be gathering hours for 6 years, 5 years. You want to get in there and start getting your hours. That's the key. Does that make sense? Hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess for me, and this is something I've struggled with during the LPC side of things, because being a school counselor, I mean, I end with kids when they leave me and go to another school. Like I
Right.
don't ever,
It's different.
yes. And so I'm trying to really understand how all that works. And
Mhm.
it's been interesting the last year trying to maneuver that.
Yeah, but this is part of why you do a practicum. And this is why you have to do 3,000 hours. When you get your full license, that would have meant that you've done a minimum of 1,500 hours of care with a client. That's a lot of hours. That means a lot of these questions that you have now, you're not even thinking about anymore. You're just doing it. That's why. Does that make sense? I don't know about y'all, but I'd rather a pilot, if I have a pilot that's flying my plane, you know how many hundreds of hours they have to put into every craft they fly? Well, I'm glad. I want that. Yeah. If I have a surgeon that's going to operate on me or someone I love, that's 9 years or 10 years of experience. Well, yeah, that's what I want that. If I'm working with a mental health provider, I want someone that has put time in. That's important. And that's the big picture. The problem is that we don't live in a world of patience anymore. We live in a world of like, I kind of want to do this tomorrow. So can I get my license tomorrow? No, it doesn't work that way on purpose. Right. So, but these are great questions. Michelle, your question is, unfortunately, I wish I could say I've never heard this before, but I have. And it's just so risky. So risky. Yeah.
Along
I'm
the
a
other
tip.
lines, oh, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Now, along the other lines that Michelle was talking about, like using like art therapy or expressive art therapy, do you have to get certified in that before you can start practicing
You, it
that?
would help. It would help. Now, Michelle's got training in art in terms
Hmm.
of education, but therapy is different.
Right,
Like
the art
art
therapy
therapy
part.
is different.
Right.
I can tell you guys if anyone's interested in any of those things, um, University of North Texas has the certifications for any kind of like uh, uh, art therapy, sand tray, like any play therapy, anything you can think of in terms of like, especially working with kids, that's the place to go. And it's really not hard to get that certification if that's something that you're interested in. Um, the key about certifications, and this is true actually of coaching as well, you can't say you're certified in something unless you have the certification. Like I'm a certified prolonged exposure therapist. Like I've been trained and I have a certification in prolonged prolonged exposure trauma treatment. So I can say that. But if I didn't have the certification, I could just say I'm trauma informed or like Michelle could 100% do play therapy and use art in therapy with her clients, even adults, but just couldn't say I'm a certified art therapist. That's all. That's all. Does that make sense? Like you can learn how to do the techniques and the methods. Like I'm not sure why this happened, but when I was in grad school, we had a bunch of my colleagues that got into narrative therapy, which is a super postmodern form method of therapy. And so we got a couple of books about it and read it and kind of practiced it. We just couldn't say we're certified in narrative therapy, but we used that model of therapy. It's kind of like CBT, right? I use CBT. I'm not certified in that. Does that make sense? It's the same. Certifications are really, really popular right now, though. So you can get them pretty easily too.
Well, that's what at the private practice that I'm with, whenever I fill out all the paperwork after I see a client, she has like a ton of things listed on there that you can click what you used.
Yeah.
And so that was something that she and I sat down and talked about, because there's things on there, because narrative is on there, but there are a few things on there I didn't really know about. So I've done a little research on the side, just figuring out what they are.
Yeah, the one thing that is different about Amberton, we've been talking about this actually a lot more. Like my master's program, one of the things we did brought up at the first semester, we started talking about models. of therapy. We talked about like we probably went over like 15 miles of therapy in my whole 2-year program and at Texas Tech. Same thing. It's different though because it was an MFT program and a lot of more systems based. But I mean, in terms of models of therapy, there are, I mean, just CBT, for example, there's like 5 or 6 different forms of, CBT. There's different modes of treating trauma. I mean, there's all kinds of different things you can get into. IFS is a really hot one right now. I'm not sure why, but it's really super helpful. But I've got tons of like narrative therapy, like Sheila, if you're interested in narrative therapy, I got it's a little book on narrative therapy. It's like one of the best little bitty books I've ever read. It's really good. As you can see behind me, I just moved to a new house, so all my or I'm sorry, my books are like jumbled, but I've got all kinds of little, books that are super, super helpful about it. Narrative therapy actually is really effective. I've used it multiple times, but yeah, there's endless models up there. Not all of them are evidence based necessarily. So that's another thing that's important.
So is it worth it to get certifications? Like,
If
you
you
see
want
it
to,
out there.
yeah, it's up to you really.
Okay.
I mean, you can read about it and just not be certified and still be good at it. You know,
Okay.
like
And you still practice.
I use EFT. I'm not certified in EFT, but I know a lot about it and I've studied it a lot. And
Mhm.
part of my qualitative paper and my PhD was written about it. So I just can't say I'm a certified, emotionally focused therapist, but so but to some people it's worth it. Like if you knew one model, you were like, I really like this model and form of therapy. I'm like, I love this theory, I love this model, and you knew that was where you were going. It might be maybe that would be worth it because that would be like all you did, you know. Then maybe it would be worth it. But then things like EMDR, you have to be certified in, right? So there's certain things, like if anyone decided, hey, I kind of want to go like the Myers Briggs direction in terms of career, you have to be certified Myers Briggs. Like there's things you might have to do more training on if you chose to go a certain way, but you'll have plenty of time to think about that. If you're like me, everything's interesting. You'll read about anything.
Yep. Is there a hard target for supervised hours? I would assume you see your supervisor weekly, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But is there an official number that we're gunning for out of
yeah,
those 1,500?
yeah. Like all your hours have to be supervised. So it's like now they've changed some of the rules about group supervision and individual too, and virtual versus in person. But
Mhm.
you see them weekly. So what that in essence means is all your hours are supervised.
Right.
But I think you can do
But the
certain,
number of hours in supervision, is there a
yeah,
target for that?
there is a number, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. I know there
Okay.
is, but that'll be listed. You'll see all of that information.
Okay.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
When you get closer, when you start doing all your start getting your hours for your full licensure, you'll be well aware of like all the hours you need.
Okay.
The MFT folks, I don't know if it's passed. I don't think it's passed yet, but they've been talking about if you're in the MFT program, part of your 1,500 direct hours, you have to do 750 with relationships, so marriages or families, people that are related in the room. They're trying to change that to 500, which would mean that'd be huge if they do that. That's worth keeping an eye on. I don't think that's passed yet. That'd be a big deal. Okay, any other questions? Okay. Then here's what we're going to do. We're going to be done for the day at 10:40, and I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go mow my yard. You know, that's what I'm the weirdo that likes to mow his yard, and that's like therapy to me. I love doing stuff like that. I'm going to go dig around in my backyard. I got a bunch of stuff I'm going to do. I just love it. I'm like a little kid. I got crawfish in my yard out here digging holes. I'm going to go trap some crawfish today. It's going to be awesome. Yeah. It sounds fun, right? Okay. Our next class is sometime. I don't know when it is. Let's see. '29th. So a couple of weeks. I don't know if anyone noticed. I did change the syllabus from like when it first went out. I changed it. We have to have our syllabus ready so early, and I'll always make changes. But I've changed the syllabus like 2 or 3 weeks after I'd put it out. So the one that's out there now is the one it's the official one. So we'll meet on the 29th of June, 13th of July, 27th of July, and August 10th. And that's all on the syllabus. You can check those out. The links will be in Moodle, and I don't have the assignment drop links in Moodle yet, but I'll put those on there today. So like I said, if you guys want to do like the reflection paper, let's say, and I know some people watching the recording, I know some people are traveling at the end of the semester. If you want to go ahead and do all of the, anything you want to turn in, that's fine. That's great. You can do that. And like I said, I'm gonna try to have 1 or 2 students next time come and talk to us a little bit about kind of their experience and next steps and things to think about. I found that to be kind of helpful for people. I think that's about it. I'll see you guys on the 29th and have a good weekend.
Cool.
Thanks, Dr. Bedard.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.